to Module 4. Now we're going to be discussing the ingredients that go into beer. There are only 4 main ingredients. So we've got our malt, our hops, our water,
and our yeast.
Yeah. So Stacy's going to go ahead and talk about those for you.
So as Brandon said, there's 4 ingredients in any beer. The base ingredients to make your beer, you need malt. Malt is really a form of cereal grains. These are some form of a barley malt. They can be flavored in any kind of ways, similar to coffee. They can be roasted. The different breed of malt will give you a different style of beer. But any beer starts with malted grains. So these are barley malts. That creates a really, really sweet wort, is what it's called. Unfermented beer is wort. So in the brewing process, we're going to add these to a mash tun here and steep them in hot water. That basically makes tea. The spent grains will be sent out, and we'll collect the runnings off that, which is the sweet wort. And basically it just removes all of these sugars from these grains, so it's very, very sweet. After you have your sweet wort, in order to counteract that, you need hops, and that's where the flavor of the beer comes in and how you can change the profile from a sweet beer to a bitter beer or a beer that has more of a hop characteristic or profile to it. So these are hop pellets. For home brewers, this is really the easiest way to get hops. Even a lot of commercial craft brewers will use hop pellets in their beer. A lot of folks like this because it doesn't absorb as much of the wort. You end up with more beer that can go in your fermenter and actually get bottled versus the whole cone hops. You still get good flavor out of these. It's the most convenient way to do it. So we have our sweet wort from our barley grains, and then we add our hops in the boiling process. And then after that's done, we have our wort that has been flavored with our grains, our hops, and then we'll chill that down, and once that cools down to a safe temperature, we will pitch our yeast. So the 4 ingredients, water, grains, hops, and yeast, once the yeast does its job, it converts the sugars from the sweet wort into alcohol in the fermentation bucket. Once that process is done, usually 7 to 10 days, we have beer at that point. Now there's other flavorings you can add to the beer at that point. Anytime that you want to add an oak flavor, vanilla flavor, whiskey flavor to get the barrel age, there's all different kinds of flavors you can add to it. In that fermentation process, you can create your fruit beers. If you want to add like a raspberry or a blueberry to make a fruit beer, you would do that generally in the fermentation process after the original yeast has consumed all the sugars. Then you can kind of start adding all your flavorings and whatnot to create different flavor profiles with your beer. So depending on what style of grains you get depends on the style of beer you're making. If you're making an IPA, you're going to have a lot of really light grains. But if you have a dark beer, you're going to have a lot of darker grains that are going to be in your grain bill. So other than that, those are the ingredients that you need to make beer.